Wondering why UC is tight with money? Wondering why UC won't provide more resources to alleviate crippling workloads? Well, want to know more. I'm Lachlan from the NTEU. We're going to explain the findings of the ACT Auditor General in relation to leadership, management and governance failures at the University of Canberra. In January 2024, the Vice-Chancellor, Paddy Nixon, resigned unexpectedly. While he cited family reasons, Times Higher Education reported that he was told his services were no longer required. When the annual report was released, we found that Paddy Nixon had actually left in December 2023 and that his remuneration for 2023 was a staggering $1.8 million. That obviously prompted questions as to whether there was a golden handshake and whether the UC community was being told everything about the circumstances of his departure. Still, it was a bit of a shock when in August 2024, Interim Vice-Chancellor Lucy Johnston said UC was facing a $50 million deficit and that if things continued as they were, UC would not be able to pay staff.
That's next year on our predictions. That's the point at which we stop being able to pay the bills. It's the point at which we can't meet payroll.
UC is administered under the University of Canberra Act, which is ACT legislation and sets out the provisions for UC Council and other governance arrangements. So we called on ACT political parties to back a review into UC ahead of the ACT election, and Labor and the Greens agreed. The product of that review is this report from the ACT Auditor General. Meanwhile, Lucy Johnston left, presumably unhappy that she didn't get the job longer term, as new Vice-Chancellor Bill Shorten was announced to commence in February 2025. So in the meantime, UC went back to the future, bringing back former Vice-Chancellor Stephen Parker as interim Vice-Chancellor. And Stephen Parker started doing the dirty work before Bill Shorten arrived. He announced at least 200 redundancies as UC faced change management plans everywhere. To his credit, he was upfront and candid in town halls, and you could tell he didn't think the place had been run well. We were taken aback, however, when Stephen Parker resigned as he'd lost faith in UC Council. That brought in a new interim Vice-Chancellor, Michelle Lincoln, who kept the job losses going until the new Vice-Chancellor, Bill Shorten, came in and finished them off. So how did it get to that point? Well, the Auditor General places a lot of emphasis on ETAG. ETAG was all about getting UC more into the online education space, including asynchronous online courses, and all it would cost is
to bring on the 19th of October to finance and then subsequently to the end of October council meeting, a proposal to invest about $40 million over 5 years in the university.
UC Council ended up approving $54.9 million in expenditure in the first 3 years. Why? Well, because student load was going to increase because of this bright and shiny new idea by almost 40% in the next 5 years. If you think, well, that's ridiculous, you're not alone. The ACT Auditor General recently found that this strategy was high risk. Of course, that didn't stop UC leadership embarking on this journey. ETAG was enthusiastically supported by Paddy Nixon, then Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academic Jeff Crisp, and his successor, Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academic Michelle Lincoln. UC stuck at this until it was far too late. The Auditor General found that the 2023 and 2024 budgets were high risk and based on student growth targets that were too optimistic. UC, in their 2025 budget, conceded that the targets were unrealistic. And what was the consequence? Well, the report draws a pretty straight line between these bad decisions and the 200 or so redundancies in 2024 and 2025. So while for many staff, this led to careers being destroyed and livelihoods being ruined, as well as traumatic spill and fill processes, Paddy Nixon left with remuneration of $1.8 million. Many of the same appointed UC Council members are still there, and UC executive got paid more than $140,000 in bonuses for 2024, on top of salaries and other remuneration that exceeds at least $500,000 a year. When our members ask for better job security around managing change and redundancy processes during enterprise bargaining negotiations, this might help to explain why. We also know that originally the 2026 budget was for a $10.8 million surplus, but just 1 quarter into the year, this has already been downgraded to a break-even budget. we're left to wonder whether the pursuit of other bright and shiny new initiatives will lead to history repeating itself. We know the block model has an upfront cost, and we know that Deputy Vice-Chancellor Michelle Lincoln has told staff that despite a clear majority being unsupportive, UC is pushing ahead. This makes a mockery of consultation processes and is part of why we're pursuing stronger provisions in a new agreement, such as collegial workload determination, so that staff voices need to be considered and taken seriously. So when UC says there's not enough for fair salaries or to relieve unhealthy workloads, the problem might just be that we need better leadership. It could also be that UC leadership needs to be reminded that UC staff deserve to be valued, supported, and respected.